Thank you for joining us for this episode of Who Does She Think She Is? Audacious financial journeys with tremendous Black women. I'm Mele Miller, 30-year bank exec that you wish has always been your friend. Who does she think she is? Welcome to Legacy in the Vines, a special series of Who Does She Think She Is? We're sitting down with Black women who didn't just buy the bottle, they bought the land. Women who are cultivating vineyards, crafting award-winning wines, and building generational wealth from soil that historically wasn't meant for us to own. This is about more than wine. It's about ownership, patience, vision, and the kind of prosperity that grows slowly but lasts for generations. So pour a glass and let's talk about power rooted in the land. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Who Does She Think She Is? I am here today. Did you see the shoulder shimmy? She can't even wait for the intro. I'm here today with the Shae Frichette. This incredible human, outside of being so joyful and bringing such amazing energy to the set, which I need. We got to give and receive. Shae is a winemaker, co-founder of Frichette Winery. And let me just say that they cover a tremendous space in the Red Mountain AVA wine territory. And for those of you who don't know what that means, me neither, but that's why we have an expert here, because she's going to talk about it with us. But beyond all of that, she's a tremendous member of the community, a philanthropist, a coach, a leader, a friend, and I'm proud to say that we come to this moment to talk about her journey. So, Shae, thank you for being here with me, with us.
This is a treat. It's a real treat. So thank you for having me.
My pleasure. You know I'm going to ask you about money. We're going to talk about money.
I know.
But I don't want to start there. I want to
Okay.
start with how everyone else in the world starts. And that is by seeing you first, by experiencing you, perhaps before you get to make a very intentional introduction. So
Yeah.
what I'd like to ask is, how does the world see you? How do convey back to you your identity?
I feel like if the world is looking at me from like what they see on the internet, it's
Mhm.
kind of like some of the things that you shared, right?
Okay.
So I make wine. I'm one of the only Black female winemakers and owners in the state of Washington. I live in Eastern Washington in the desert. I work in vineyards. So I think the world probably sees me that way. And I hope that through the things that I do and chatting with you, folks see me as being someone who is compassionate, someone who has positive attitude, and someone who sees the glass half full, but loves to have my glass all the way full, especially when I'm talking about wine.
Well, I was going to say, what's in the glass, though, because if it's water versus milk or, but I see you as compassionate, and we've met before and had interactions before, and I've always left those interactions feeling seen and
Mhm.
connected with. And it was brief. So I met you first in person at an event in Seattle. And I was standing in a very long line just to be able to walk up and meet you, to sample some of your incredible products and creations, to enjoy your craft. And I got to the front and I introduced myself and I was like, oh, I know who you are. And you didn't say it like, I know who you are. You said, I see you. I appreciate you. I recognize you.
Yeah.
I know who you are.
Yeah.
And that felt really good. I don't know if you remember that
I do.
moment,
Yeah.
but I looked at the time I had my best friend standing next to me and I looked at her like, she know me. Did you introduce me? Were folks talking about me?
Well, I think you have to give yourself credit too, because you do a lot of amazing things. And you are seen and you are heard and you are beautiful and you are amazing. So, of course, I would know who you are. And the energy that you bring into a room as well is just as powerful as the credit that you give other women for bringing the energy into the room. So, I think you have to recognize that too.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you.
Of course.
I'm not here to talk about me. You almost had me. You almost had me. And that's a little bit of your coach energy and your background coming out. So you're a winemaker now,
Mhm.
but have you always been a winemaker? Has that always been your journey? Or did your journey start somewhere else? Did you get to
Yeah.
winemaking honestly or through a crooked path? I believe in
We're
crooked
gonna
paths.
save that for another conversation. You know what's crazy? I grew up in a dry home. So it's just, my
Oh,
friends
okay.
and family in South Carolina are just like, we can't believe you are in wine. We never had alcohol in our home. And, so I was one of those kids that went into college, like, not having any experience with alcohol.
Uh-oh.
So it's crazy that
Yeah.
I'm a winemaker, but, winemaking starts with agriculture, and that's where really my love is. When I grew up in South Carolina, my family, we grew row crops, and the fun part about that I recognize now is that when we were hungry, we just went out into the garden and got stuff to eat, and we grew
Right.
for our community, not just for us. So anyone, no one went hungry because, if we knew that, this family up the road needed something, my mom be like, well, come get some collard greens. I got some butter beans. Come over and eat. Like, yeah, get what you need. And
That
so,
right there, that is the basis of collective abundance. That's
yes.
the basis of community.
Yeah. Yeah.
Being from Hawaii, I recognize that we're on an island, resources grow on trees.
Hmm.
We are surrounded by opportunity.
Yes.
So I want to dig a little deeper there. You're a farmer.
Yes.
You're a farmer. Oh, so you did combine, honestly.
Yeah.
Can I just spotlight the fact that farmers in the financial services world, I have underwritten and analyzed financial documents, written credit policy, partnered with farmers. And what I didn't realize, and I really want to spotlight right now because I'd like to unpack it, is that farming is a science. Farming is a craft. Farming is a strategy. Farming is a partnership, a collective, a community. Farming is a distribution, manufacturing. So you are soup to nuts. Farming is an entire ecosystem and an
It is.
economy all by itself.
It is.
So, first of all, here's what I know about you now that I know that. You are incredibly systems focused,
I have to
right?
be.
The workflow, the order, the structure, the financial mechanisms, the partnerships along the way.
Mhm.
No wonder, no wonder I enjoy you because you see every component of the value creation
Oh,
chain.
yeah.
You don't miss a thing, do you?
You know what? I try not to.
Well, that's very
I try
humble
not
of
to.
you. Okay, so let's lean into the science aspect because I know that being from South Carolina and living in the desert side of Washington,
Mhm.
that's a different
Very
conversation.
different.
Very different. So,
Yes.
how do you function as a farmer in the desert side of
Yeah.
Washington? What grows there? Do you grow there?
Yeah, I do. But it was a tough lesson to learn because I grew up farming row crops, and
What does
there
that
wasn't
mean?
row
Row
crops.
crops.
Crops that are like that are growing in like collard
In a row.
greens in a
Okay.
row. Yeah,
All right. I didn't.
yeah. So
Hawaii.
so we grew in our garden. We grew okra, collard greens. We grew melons, potatoes, sweet potatoes. We
Aw.
grew corn, just anything that we could grow. My family, we had fun with. We needed a diversity of crops, and in South Carolina, we could grow a lot of things. So that was a lot of fun. However, when I moved to Eastern Washington,
Mhm.
I thought, oh yeah, I just like till up some soil and grow some stuff. And so there's a video I have with my son Jaden. He's like 7 months old. And I have him on my back and I have a shovel and I'm turning soil
You're
over.
doing all the things.
Yeah,
You
I
literally
do
are
all the
bringing it
things.
back to the roots.
Bringing it back to
You
the
have your
roots.
son on your
Yes,
back
on
while
my
you're
back.
working.
Yes, yes.
But you just shifted that energy and that vibe for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I think about our ancestry and
Mhm.
farming and fields and crops, I've historically thought about it in a very different way.
Mm,
And from this moment on, I'm gonna see you with your son on your back.
yeah.
Um
I'm gonna do you even one better. I'm
Holding.
gonna send you that video.
Please.
I'm gonna send
Okay.
you the video. I'm gonna send you the video. And what I
Shae, you
remember,
see me. You
I'm gonna
see
send you the
me. You
video.
knew I was gonna ask.
And
Okay.
the thing that there was joy in the work and having him with me
Mhm.
to do this work. But I think about all that work I did and I go and I plant and not many things came up. And I was so confused by it because that it was very different from South Carolina.
Right.
You put your seeds in and you get a little bit of water and things grow. And so my first season of planting my garden was kind of a failure.
Mm.
And I was confused. I was frustrated because it was a lot of work. And so I started working with the master gardeners at WSU, and they were just like, "Well, this soil is crap here. Like, you've got to amend this. You got to do some work to it." And I was like, "But
Mm.
wine grapes grow here." And they're just like, "Well, think about it. They don't need much. They don't need the nutrients that your vegetables need." So it was a tough learning for me coming
Okay.
from South Carolina,
I see.
where we have more nutrient-rich soils, than coming here to Eastern Washington. It was a tough lesson to learn.
But you learned the lesson. You failed forward.
Oh, I
I
love
can't
that. Fail forward.
I didn't make that up.
Okay.
I didn't make that up. I wish. Not that one.
When I think about that experience, I'll think about that. I failed forward. I like
You did, but that what the environment that you created or that you were a part of was such that you could fail forward and not be hungry. So again, my mind is always looking at business and
mhm,
productivity
mhm,
with a financial lens, not
mhm,
because money is what matters, but it's because the sun on your back does, right? Like
mhm.
the sun and the sun on your back does.
Yes, yes.
So how were you able to fail forward safely? What created that environment? What created the container that you wouldn't go hungry or
Mm,
that because a lot of business owners failing has a cost that cannot be recouped.
yeah, that's true. That's
Yeah.
very true. I think for me, there are things that light the fire under me, and failing isn't one of those things where I get super deflated.
Hmm.
It almost fuels me. So
Mm.
I'm always thinking about like, what did I learn? And how do I get back up and do it again based on what I've learned? And so and I also think about like, well, what didn't work? Okay, well, I'm not going to do that again. Well, what how because I know it can work. Like I
Mm.
just know it can.
You just know it can.
Yeah.
That's not optimism. That's the glass is half full and it's full of wine, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you're like, let's keep this party going. You're like, sorry, I'm
You
sorry.
get me.
I've waited
You
my
get
whole
me.
life. I don't know if it was Eddie Murphy or who first did that, but I've been waiting
You get
for a
me.
moment. But I think that's important, right? That's important
Yeah.
to see that what you invested and also the time that it takes for, I'm probably not going to use the right words here because I do not have the farming language, but for a crop or for a harvest, how long is that turnaround time from when you plant the seed to when it becomes something that you can cultivate and then convert? It's to this,
Yeah.
what is that timeline?
So for wine grapes, for vegetables, sometimes you have do-overs. So you have like you have a span of time that you can plant things. The succession planting is very common with row crops, right? So
Mm.
because you don't want everything to come in at once, which is very different from wine grapes. So
Talk
they're two different, very
talk
different
to us
crops.
about what succession planning is.
Succession planting is
Oh, planting. Oh,
Yes,
I
yes.
thought you said, again, financial, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You said succession planning,
Planting,
which
yes.
is
That's
actually
very important
and
too,
it's
though.
similar. So
Right.
please share if you could unpack what succession planting is, because
Right.
this is a new term to me.
Yeah. Well, it's instead of having all of your corn come in at one time,
Mhm.
right? So you don't just want to have everything come in and go to a farmer's market, right? So you want to be able to show up at that farmer's market, throughout the season. And so you might plant some of your corn week 1 and more in week 3 and more in week 6. And so that you get this span of harvest so that you can offer it for a wider amount of time. You wanna be able to get to market early, so you're
Right.
gonna, plant early, and then you wanna be able to sustain for the whole season that that crop is available. So that's what
So,
and think about if you
yeah.
plant in your own garden, right? So if you don't
I
want
don't
everything to come in at once.
I have 3 plants and I'm so proud they're so fine.
Yay! Yes, it's amazing!
Thank you.
What? Oh my
2
gosh,
are succulents, but
they
I'm
all matter.
thank
There's
you,
such
thank you.
benefits from
I'm
having plants.
I share that because when you say right, I have no idea. This is very new to me. And so I can imagine that others that are listening, it may be new to them too. And there is just something about a powerful sister sitting here with me, sipping on, because y'all know I'm sipping on it, sipping on the wine that she's made with grapes and seeds and crops that she's planted with her own hands and with the number of individuals that I'm sure that you employ, because I know you're
Mhm.
not out there doing this all by
Nope,
yourself. Okay.
not.
Right. And teaching me and teaching everyone else that is listening and watching what the beautiful journey looks like, why it matters,
Mhm,
what's required along the way to nurture and cultivate the
mhm.
end result, and also the cost, the opportunity cost. If something doesn't work out as planned, you're adapting, you're making changes. What is the actual opportunity cost if something doesn't work? Like that first time when you're out in
Yeah,
Eastern Washington with your son on your back, like
yeah.
it didn't work out. So there's knowledge there, but what was the financial implication of that?
The financial implication of that is a lot less than with wine grapes because
Ooh.
wine grapes, I mean, we get our first crop in 3 years. And so there's a very long runway for this. And so if you can
Wow.
imagine if I have, let's call it 1,000 vines in the ground,
Okay.
I want to think of it as I want all these vines to get everything that they need so that they can all be ready at the same time. But if
Mhm.
something goes wrong on part of the vineyard and I've got to replant, let's say in year 2, now I may need to treat this side of the vineyard different from over here. And now these plants are ready and these are not. So the cost for this is a lot more. Right now, to even plant a vineyard, it's about $30,000 an acre. And that's with all of your
An
infrastructure.
acre?
An acre.
Ah.
So that's with all of your infrastructure or irrigation. So let's say you put that $30,000 into plants in Eastern Washington, you've still got 3 years before you see a crop. And then when you're making wine, the way that we make wine, we're aging for 2 years. So you've got 5 years. It's just such a long runway,
Yeah. So
with no money coming back in
that was
from that when you get
you
started. So
you
it's
knew exactly where I was
yeah,
going with that. So how do you ramp up and launch
yeah,
something like that? How do you sustain? We were talking about succession planting. Does that apply in winemaking also?
absolutely.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. So, there are a lot of, I think today there's opportunity in wine and there are a lot of different ways to get into wine. So
Hmm.
for someone that just, let's say you wake up and you're like, you know what, I've always wanted to get into wine and I'm ready to change careers, but something kind of has to happen now. I'm at the point in my life where I just don't really want that long runway. There are ways to jump in. You can jump in by saying someone else has already planted the vineyard and it's a mature site, it's established, and I just want to grab the wine grapes. So maybe I have 2 years to age it. So
Okay.
instead of waiting for 5 years, I have 2 years. And even folks who want to jump in sooner than that, you can just go, who around me has been aging wine for 2 years? They've done a great job, and I really just kind of want to jump in now
Mm,
and maybe not as much make the wine, but be that brand owner. So
I
we
see.
did it the way where it was really when you are talking strategy,
Hmm.
that's where we started. So I was in organizational development and leadership, which you were just kind of giving the nugget
I know.
when you were
I
talking
know.
coaching.
Snooped and read the bio, but also because I can smell it and get it and experience it all over you. You have very obvious big picture perspective. You have awareness of every helping hand and contributor along the
Yeah.
way. You understand what it takes to build the railroad and the train.
I think in farming you have to, because as much as it's
Yes.
science and systems, you're really not in control.
A
The
lot of
nature
folks who
tends
do
to,
not
right?
know that it's science and systems
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
Right?
I,
But what I'm hearing you say is there's many ways to get into the
there's
wine
many ways to get into
industry.
it.
Is it a lucrative career, or must you own the vineyard?
It can be a lucrative career.
Mhm.
You don't have to own the vineyard.
Okay.
I love owning my own vineyard. I believe,
Yeah.
though this is just
Yeah.
me, for me
It's
though,
okay, but you're a
I
farmer.
I am, and I believe that when you own that land, and especially when your family lives on it, you treat it very differently. You just look at it so differently.
So you live
I live on my farm.
on your farm.
Mhm.
See, I didn't know that. One son? More than one son?
One son, but he's kind of like having three. He's 13.
Oh, oh, hey, you know what? Here, let's just, you know what? You're good enough. You're strong enough.
Thank you.
And sister, this too shall pass.
Thank you. I need this.
But you know what? This is a tremendous age. Does he get to be involved into
Absolutely.
I
Well, he learned to crawl in the winery. He learned to walk in the winery. He was there when we planted the first vines. He hears us talk about it all the time. And so, as a kiddo, he's like a sponge. And the crazy thing is, this is a real short, just bumper
No,
sticker
I'm
thing.
no, I'm
I was
so in, like,
so he was in preschool, and this is when you had to walk when you have to walk your kids into the classroom and make sure
yes.
they get to the teacher. And so I turn around, I hear my 4-year-old going, the Simeon, it came in really, really good, and that Cabernet Sauvignon. And I was like, oh my God. So I turn around and he's saying this to the teacher with the other kids around. And I turn around, I just go, and I just said, we work in wine. And that's why. And so she goes, I'm just impressed that you can pronounce these words. And I
Right. He wasn't talking about a cocktail. He was literally learning, expressing, and sharing the family craft.
yes, yes,
What
yes.
so You said I'm sorry, but were you at least a little bit?
Well, of course I
Okay.
was. It was just
I'm
like,
like,
wow,
you can tell
he's been
me.
listening to us. Like
Sponges,
yeah,
right? We're
yeah,
sponges, but so are we.
yeah,
So
that's true. Yeah.
the transition from farming, okay,
Row crops. Yeah.
row crops,
Yeah.
row crops to winemaking, that's still very different. What I'm
It's
hearing you
very
say is that
different.
it's a tremendous transition even then. And I understand that you built a family in Eastern
Mhm.
Washington and an entire business. What point was the at what point at what point did Shay say to Shay, "We're making a transition from corn to
It's a Cabernet
Cabernet
Sauvignon.
Sauvignon," like, just the way you say that, but at what point did the flip switch, and what motivated that?
Well, I feel, I love gardening. I have over 20 raised beds now. So I love, love, love. I love gardening. I love sharing, like sharing food with friends. So I really enjoy it. But I also wanted to create a business around a crop that I thought would be something that would stretch me and something that was
Mhm.
fun that I could make another product with.
Mm,
And so when you look at the top crops in Washington state, you have potatoes, apples, and
mhm,
onions, and those things, although they're great products and a lot of them are exported, um, they weren't as exciting to me as wine grapes. And I just thought there was a beauty in having a plant that you plant, you take care of, and you have all these hands that touch it, like all these hands.
mhm.
I even think about, I planted my vineyard in 2018, and there were families that helped me plant that vineyard. And I think about them like when I'm out there working by myself, I think about like all the folks who touch these
That
vines,
had
right?
invested in you.
Right. And think about it, those vines will be there in 50 plus years and
Mm,
all the hands that get to touch like those vines. Like to me, that's
it's
really cool.
beautiful.
And my son that gets to run around in the vineyard or drive his little, UTV around, it's just like, he gets to be a part of that too. So
I am not one to impose myself.
I'm nervous now. What's gonna
I'm not one to
what's
invite
going
myself
to
over or
Oh,
impose myself, but there are moments in
I was like,
life
what is going to happen?
there are moments in life when you know you wanna,
Oh
experience
my gosh.
someone's painted such a glorious picture that, may I visit?"
Please. I
Okay,
insist.
thank you.
I
And
insist.
I jokingly say impose myself, but you're sharing with me this journey where all of these hands have invested, all of these hands, lives, these families, this community. There is a community that has invested in you.
Yeah.
Yes, in the product, but in you.
Yeah.
And what does that investment look like? Is it time? Is it hands? Is it financial?
Mhm.
How do you embrace community and engage investment in the growth of your business?
When you said time and hands, that did remind me of the folks who come along and work with us because they are some of the folks who work in our vineyard have worked in vineyard for a really long time.
Okay,
And the
okay.
decisions that they make are critical. And they have to care about the work that they're doing because there are no do-overs.
Right,
You
right. It's
cut the wrong
alive.
spot, right?
It's
And you cut
alive.
the wrong spot or, so that's important. And so for me, I love hearing the conversations in the vineyard and the singing because I'm like, that's good energy. Like that's just good.
I'm sorry,
That's
folks are singing
joy.
in the vineyards? What do
Yes.
folks sing? Are they out there, like, hitting Sade? Or what are the
There's just singing and joy and teamwork and celebrations when rows are completed or the vineyard's done. During lunch, folks are sharing food and
Mhm,
someone's mom made this, someone's grandma made that, and so it's just like this really cool community of farm workers who
mhm,
love vineyard, and who understands the impact that they have on. And for me, I think that it brings along just a larger scope of responsibility because I feel like when I'm in the vineyard, like I can't mess up either, and not
mhm,
not just mess up
mm,
from the standpoint of, oh my gosh, there's a financial implication if I mess up, but it's almost just like someone else has been working on this
mhm,
before me. Like
yeah,
I can't mess this up. So I have to be attentive when I'm in the vineyard, when I'm walking through, if there's something that I need to, a pest or an insect that is a bad bug.
You're a
It's just like I need
steward.
to make
You
sure
are a
that that's
steward of these assets.
that's what it is.
A
Yes.
vineyard in the financial world is land. It is also your inventory.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. It is your, raw goods. It's your raw
Yeah.
goods, your land, your
Yeah.
inventory, your entire staff. It is the
Yeah.
long-term future of
Right.
product development.
Yeah.
And so when I ask you about investment, understanding that you have a workforce, you have investors, you have partners and buyers, you, like any other business, are sitting on inventory and resources that must be stewarded well, otherwise their value will drop
Of
or be
course.
lost. And
Yeah.
so I,
Yeah.
I certainly recognize that, and I want to spotlight that because you really do make this very glamorous. You do. I want you to know, I folks can't see you if they're
Yeah.
listening to the show or even watching the show. They can't see the amazing shoes that she's wearing. It's like patchwork suede, and the stiletto heel is really quite impressive. And so I can't help but think to myself, you look incredible. You
Thank you.
sound incredible. You exude joy and light. And it really does feel as though you're exactly where you are meant to be. Do you believe that you are where you meant to be?
I do. But I have to say though, the glamorous parts, I can rarely get a manicure because I'm farming. So
I
even
hear
today,
I
I'm
hear
just
you.
like I was in the vineyard before I got here. So I'm just like,
They
okay, I
they
probably should.
can't see they can't see your nails.
And I've
Okay, yeah.
wanted to wear perfume and wine. The
Oh.
time that I get to, I have perfume and it's such a big deal when, let's say I'm going to dinner on a Saturday, but I can wear perfume because you can't have those fragrances in the tasting room
Oh.
or around wine,
Oh,
right?
it impacts
So
flavor.
yeah,
Fascinating. I
yeah,
was
so it's like
thinking
just a little side note
that
for
okay, so I thought that what you were saying was that you couldn't that the vines, the grapes were that delicate, but no, it's
No,
about
it's
our
on the
palate.
exactly.
Oh,
So you don't
okay.
wanna go into a tasting room and have an attendant pouring you wine, and you can smell the sandalwood
Now,
fragrances that they have.
I came in there to taste and
Yeah.
I had fragrance on. Would that impact my experience, my taste experience?
It may not impact your taste experience. It would impact the ambiance of, probably other
Interesting.
folks. But the thing about it is that those conversations never happen in my tasting room. If you have perfume on, none of us are certainly gonna
Interesting.
mention it. But I think just the understand that for some folks that come into wine, you have aromatics from the wine grapes themselves, like from
Mhm,
each variety. They
mhm.
smell very different.
They
Merlot smells
do.
different than Cabernet Sauvignon. Carmenere is different from Malbec. So they all have their unique aromatics. And then when we age them for 2 years, that French oak also imparts other aromatics and flavors to them. And so sometimes folks want to come in and like really appreciate that, almost in a way that you
Mm.
have folks that are bourbon drinkers or whiskey drinkers. Oh, they'll like put their nose to the glass just like you're doing, and you get that. And other strong fragrances can interfere with it. So because you can't
Mm.
really go like, well, is that fragrance from a perfume that I'm wearing, or is it from the wine? And so to get the true experience is.
It's best to have sort of kind of a clear
uh,
space.
yeah.
Anyway, you come across as super confident, and I know it's because of what you shared. This is your space, this is your
Mhm.
zone, this is where you want to be. Has there ever been a time where you were underestimated or you didn't feel as though you were on the right path or track or in the right room?
Yeah, there have been times I had shared this a few years ago. There was a time that I was at a trade event and I'm in the room with all of these other wineries, a lot of fantastic wineries that I looked up to as well. And I have trade folks that weren't coming to my table. And one of my neighbors, Kiona, said, "Hey, why don't you go over there to Frichette? She pours great wine."
Mm.
And that was when folks started coming over to my table. So in the moment where I didn't have anyone coming over, it did make me feel, and it was embarrassing. It impacted my self esteem and my confidence in the moment, so much so that I left my table and I went and I just spoke with other folks, other
Yeah.
winemakers in the room. But it was very interesting because the decision that I made after that really changed the focus of my winery because I went from being I really want to be in stores to
Yeah.
I will focus on direct to consumer. I'm going to put my focus on my tasting room, the hospitality and experience that I provide in my tasting room. And my business has been, it used to be over 99% direct to consumer. And now it's about 97% direct to consumer and a little bit of wholesale. And those are accounts that I manage on my own. They're folks that come to me now or places that I seek out because I feel like my wine is a fit for their space and they're a fit for us. And so it turned out to
Mm.
be a not great experience. But when I was telling you that there are things that fuel me, that was one of the things that really fueled me. And it turned out really, really well.
This is so this. You partner with who you want to partner. You share your craft with an audience that is seeking out and feeling fulfilled by your specialized craft. That is smart business. Recognizing that you don't need to be in certain rooms or in certain spaces or operate your business the way that others do. It's your business. And to do so in a way that is profitable and delivering a business model that is effective like
Yeah.
that to me is very smart business and
Oh,
very impressive. And I mean, I don't just say that, I mean it. I mean it. I've worked with business owners for decades that do not realize and are still forcing their product into a space where their target audience does not live,
mhm,
exist, or occupy.
mhm.
Don't make it difficult for those that you are selling to or partnering with to find you. And we make that especially difficult. It does hurt our earnings potential. I must ask because I don't, I am not aware of the industry being heavily populated with Black women winemakers. And through our shared networks, I've been able to explore and meet so many.
Mhm.
So it's opened my eyes. I'm wondering though, has your identity impacted the earnings potential of your organization, of your business?
Ask me that question in a different way, just so I get
Has
what you're
being a
asking.
Black woman impacted how much money you make in this
Mhm.
business?
Has being a Black woman impacted? I think in some years I wasn't making as much money because I came into a space where you just didn't see a lot of Black producers or Black winery owners. And so there were times where folks I felt like they would come in and maybe not purchase as much wine from me as they would from other folks.
Mhm.
I had this one incident where I say an incident, an experience
Okay, an
where
experience.
someone came into the tasting room and they just were very flippant with me. And someone on my team was just like, "My God, I can't believe she's treating you that way." And I just said, "Don't worry about it. It's fine." And it didn't bother me in a way that I'm going to teach you a lesson. That just
Right.
wasn't the energy I was bringing to the table. I squatted down. Looked her face to face, and it was
Mhm.
really about how can I serve you? The lady on my team, she couldn't wait to go over there and go, you know what? It is so amazing that you met the owner and winemaker here. It changed the way that she looked at our space. I'm not the type of person that's just like, well, let me teach you a lesson or let me tell you who I am. It's just I still want to treat everybody with grace. But we've also had, I think on the positive too, you have folks that are really that really understand the obstacles that are in front of blacks in agriculture,
Mhm.
blacks in wine, and blacks in like fill in the blank. So I've seen it in both ways,
I'm so glad. That's a perfect segue. How can our community access your craft, your products, engage with your brand, and enjoy it? Because I am enjoying it very,
Yeah.
very much today.
I'm based out of Washington State, and there are a couple places that have my wine in the Seattle space,
Okay.
like We Rise Wine Bar, Les Shy Market. Those are two big,
Yes.
big, big supporters of Frechette. And so for folks in the Seattle area, those are two great places to find us. And then
Love that.
directly from us, FrechetteWinery.com, hopping on to our website, you're seeing everything that we offer from cab to Malbec. I have a fun wine. It's a Carmenere. It's spicy. It's like a little
Ooh, okay.
jalapeno on the back.
All right.
I know
So
it's a fun variety.
I love that. Okay. I have two rapid fire questions for you
Okay, I'm
as
ready.
we approach close.
I'm ready.
Typically three, but we're running out of time
Okay.
because I feel like this could go on forever and not in a bad way. So, rapid fire question
Okay.
number one is tilting on your creative side because I do know you have a theater background.
Wow, you did your homework.
I did. And that's another episode. So, with your creative energy, let's say I'm walking into an event. I don't eat beef. I don't eat lamb. I do enjoy chicken and I do enjoy salmon. What would you recommend? What wine? What year? What flavor? Like,
So let me ask you a question. What type of food do you enjoy? Are you like foods with spice, like when you think about like Indian food or
I eat
seafood or
very light.
yeah,
I enjoy seafood, lighter sauces, not heavy creams. I love greenery. I love kale. Yes,
yeah,
I'm a kale eater.
yeah. Fun. I
Mhm.
grow kale. I love growing kale. I grow all different types of kale. So you know what? So for you see your personality.
She grows kale. This shoulder shimmy moment. She
Ooh,
grows kale.
yeah.
She grows kale. All right.
You know, you see,
I'm sorry.
so for food wise, I make a Semillon, a dry Semillon, put in a little bit of French oak for just 7 months, so you get a little touch of toast on it. I love Semillon. I think it'd be perfect for you because it's a lesser known variety, and you
Mm.
seem like someone that's open to exploring like really fun things that you want to marry well with wine or with
Uh-huh.
food.
Okay.
So our dry Semillon will be perfect for you.
Oh, that sounds
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
That sounds
yeah. It's a
amazing.
dry white wine. It's spectacular.
I want us to remember that because I'm gonna come. I'm gonna visit and
I
I'd
would
like to
love for you
enjoy
to.
some of that. Final question. We started this conversation with perception. How does the world see you? How has that shaped and impacted your journey to success? How have you engaged community? What I really want to know, because at the end of the day, I do not care how others see you. What I need to know is how you see yourself. Shae Frichette, who do you know that you are?
I know that I am compassionate, kind. I think I'm kind of funny, but you know,
You're right. You're not kidding. You are
I know
funny.
I'm not that funny.
You
I'm
are
sorry, baby.
funny. You are
I
funny.
think that I do see I am a glass half full kind of person,
Mm.
not only with other folks, but also with myself. In most situations, I give myself grace. In a lot of situations, I can be really hard on myself because I know when I can do better or when I
Yeah.
should be doing better. So, the journey that I'm on though is, like, you know, I am, I think at the age that I am,
Mhm.
you know, I am looking at like, who do I want to be in this space? And it doesn't change the person that I am because I want to keep those things too.
You are out there guiding a path for yourself and so many more that perhaps you don't see. So thank you for that. And thank
Thank
you
you.
for sharing
Yes.
the Cabernet. This is
Yes.
really delicious.
Thank
And
you.
I'm really
Thank you.
not typically, I don't reach for the red,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
this is speaking to me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for the conversation
Are
and
you
thanks for
kidding?
the
Come
warm
here.
reception. And I love it. I love it.
Please, we're
Thank
on this
you.
journey together.
Yes.
Thank you for joining me and Shae Frichette of Frichette Winery on Who Does She Think She Is? I'm Mele Miller, the financial business partner that you wish has always been your friend.